Hey there, crafty crew. Today we're doing something just a little bit different. I'm here on the floor in my craft room and we're celebrating my 1 year here on YouTube. So I do have on my sweatshirt also that I always wear while crafting. That's why it looks like I had a fight with the Michaels paint aisle. These are questions that I got from Instagram, direct messages, and in my comment sections. So we're gonna just jump right into those. What made you fall in love with candle and wax melt making? Honestly, it was the fact that it was a challenge. I don't entirely like things to be simple because when things are simple, I get bored. And candle making and wax melt making is something that you constantly are learning. And even to start, you have to do a lot of research and a lot of learning. And I also love to learn. So doing that was perfect. And then when I discovered making dessert wax melts, that just made it 10 times worse. Where or when do you think your love of crafting started? I can't remember a time that I didn't want to be creative. And it's something that I haven't been able to shake no matter how many times I have gone through in my life and completely thrown out all of my craft supplies and everything that I had made creatively. I always go back to it. So about 6 years ago, I want to say, I just quit trying to give it up and I kept everything. And obviously I have grown because now I'm in an entire craft room instead of working out of a pink glittery toolbox like I was when I was a senior in high school. How would you describe your sense of style? So as far as fashion, most of the time when I'm at home, I am in a sweatshirt or a t-shirt and sweatpants, but when I go out, it kind of varies because I do really enjoy 50s and 60s style clothing, but obviously that is not functional for every occasion or situation. So I do most of the time just wear like a button-down shirt and pants of some kind, or like a blouse and pants. And then as far as decorating, I know how I want to decorate, but I am at a phase where I have more stuff than I do space. So everything is being as functional as possible at the moment. I would be kind of a mix of traditional and rustic. What is your current hyperfixation in life? Present moment, I would have to say needle punch or punch needle, however you want to say it. I bought all of the stuff last week and that's the only thing that I want to do right now, even though I have 95 other things that I'm supposed to be doing. But I have tried 3 times to make a mug rug doing the punch needle or needle punch method, and I will just put pictures up so y'all can see, because the first one was not very good, the second one was better, and then the third one, I know how to fix them. We're getting better, and I will probably be sharing that journey because this is definitely a process. Why did you choose your major in college? So for those of you that don't know, I was a broadcasting and advertising major, and I also got a certification in digital media. I chose that because I wanted something where I could still be creative, but that would also be useful to me if I decided to either work for myself or if I decided to work for another company or freelance or whatever. Definitely could have gone the art route, but that scared me personally too much, so that is why I went the direction that I did in college. How did you start making wax food? Do know that it was social media. I started off making cookies. From there, I just tried to perfect the cookies, and then when I started seeing more and more people making wax food and wax desserts, I was like, oh wow, like there's a lot more that I can do than just desserts. Today, as of recording this video, I'm actually about to cast a mold for biscuits, but I don't know if I'm fully ready to do things like make barbecue or ribs or like a pot roast or tacos or anything yet, but we will get there. We will absolutely get there. Do you feel like arts and crafts is a passion of yours? Yes, absolutely. And I'm gonna say that because I haven't been able to get away from it. How long have you been doing arts and crafts? If you want to get real technical, my whole life, because I've been crafting for as long as I can remember, and I've been wanting to learn things for as long as I can remember. And only in the past 6 to 10 years did I really start getting more serious, even more so in the past 3 years, because we were on lockdown in 2020 and there was really nothing else for me to do other than take my college classes and sit down, and I don't do well idle. So I started consuming as much information as I possibly could on the different crafts that I was interested in and thought that I even might be interested in. So it's been really about 6 to 10 years that I've been truly serious about crafting. Do you feel like a DIY artist? Up until recently, no, I didn't even consider myself an artist at all. It wasn't until I saw, I think her name is Karen Joy, that I considered myself to be an artist at all, because I was kind of just like, oh, I don't draw, I don't paint, I don't whatever. But then when I saw her and I saw that she would take things like a cereal bowl and turn it into a sculpture and like do all of these other things, and people were calling her an artist, I was like, oh, well, I guess I am an artist. So now I do, and that was only within the last 5 to 6 months that I adopted that thought about myself. So now I do, but I haven't always. How do you adjust the lighting in your photos or videos after you're done shooting? Most of the time for my videos, I don't typically have to adjust it. For my photos, sometimes I do also, but again, most of the time I don't, because I normally try to take as good of footage as possible on the first shot where I have to do either no edits or minimal edits. But in the event that I do have to change the brightness a little bit, for my photos, I do that in Lightroom, and for my videos, I do pretty much all of my editing in Premiere Rush. So there's like a little thing on the side of the screen where I can adjust the brightness and the colors and things like that. And it's just an easy little slider. So it's pretty simple, and I usually don't have to do much. How much would you say your disability affects your small business and daily life? So a few months back, I posted this picture on Instagram. So obviously those that I know personally knew about this. There were a lot of people who didn't, but yes, I am visually impaired. Actually, I'm considered legally blind, but when you say that word to people, they kind of go off the deep end and they make all sorts of assumptions and rude comments. So I use visually impaired. It's a little bit less confusing, and it leaves the door open for people to ask genuine and less rude questions. So as far as my business, I try to keep everything that involves colors labeled, because a lot of what I do involves color. I do have some trouble with color, but not a whole lot. If I do need help, I use an app called Seeing AI, or I will ask someone. I will either send a text to a friend or grab someone in my house and be like, hey, am I seeing this color right? Whatever. And as far as doing other things, my go-to brand is Apple. Apple is very accessible for the blind and visually impaired. And when it comes to my cameras, my Canon camera, I'm able to see remotely from my phone if I need to. I usually don't need to do that at all. And then with my Sony, I actually set the Sony up. That's what I'm filming with right now, is a Sony. And then I take my camera on my phone and then I zoom in on the Sony screen to make sure that I'm in frame and I'm focused and things like that. And sewing and things like that, I just get a little bit closer, or I have extra light along with getting a little bit closer. But to me, it doesn't affect me that much. And as far as daily life, really my only issue with daily life is I don't drive. So I usually get everything delivered or schedule things for people to drive me to go get supplies or whatever. And the sun is not my friend. I prefer it to be cloudy outside, and I prefer dusk or dawn to super sunny times of the day, because my depth perception is absolute garbage when the sun is out. Does your vision play a part in how you approach your crafts? So I kind of answered this in the last one, but for the most part, I just need to get closer or get assistance with colors. I do have to say some things do move a little bit slower, but sometimes I wonder if that has anything to do with my vision or if it's really just me being a perfectionist. What's the biggest thing you've learned since you started crafting. A screw up is not actually a screw up. So a screw up is one of two things. It's either a new direction or it's a lesson. You either figure out what you did wrong and you find a solution, or you find a better way to do something, or you can turn whatever that screw up was into something completely different that was actually sometimes even better than the idea that you had planned in the first place. What is your favorite and least favorite craft? So my least favorite craft is silicone whip. If you don't know what silicone whip is, it is literally taking silicone, like the caulking, and putting it in a piping bag with a piping tip and making designs with it. I got into it, thought it was going to be fun, absolutely hated it, probably will never do it again. My favorite craft? That one's difficult because I really love making wax melts, and I also really love sewing, and I also love multimedia art. So those are my top three that I'll take a tie for me, because they just allow so much creativity that I never expected to be able to do until I started those. What are some starter tips for people entering the crafting world? Do not go buy the most expensive equipment just because you see somebody else with that piece of equipment. Start with what you have and better your skills before making a gigantic investment. Another thing is do extensive research. Do as much research as you possibly can so you can learn the right things to buy, the wrong things to buy, the right techniques and the wrong techniques, because the right techniques will tell you exactly what not to get so you don't waste your time and you don't waste your money. And find coupons if you can, or find a place locally to go pick up your supplies depending on what it is you're doing. With candle supplies, absolutely try to find something local, because you can just drive there, pick it up, and you don't have to pay shipping. You can go in, you can ask questions, or you can email them, and it saves you a lot of time and a lot of money if you have somebody that you can ask directly, or if you don't have to pay that shipping cost. And just to kind of tack on to that, looking in unconventional places for your craft supplies. So sometimes I have been able to find really great things in Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Walmart, Target, like things like that. And in my craft room, I buy things like plastic bowls and stainless steel bowls and stirring tools and whisks and things like that from Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Walmart, so on and so forth. And that ends up saving a lot of money over time, especially when you have to replace some things or you're using something all the time. And even Sam's Club and Costco, if you're trying to make like bath bombs or shower steamers, because you can find things like baking soda and Epsom salt at those places in bulk. What are your goals for your channel subscriber wise? I don't think I have a subscriber goal, but I do want to get to where YouTube is a decent source of income for me. I'm not looking to be a millionaire off of YouTube alone. The reason I started this channel was to share my crafting journey, and to also eventually get into some lifestyle content and food reviews and some cooking things, because I do also love food along with loving crafts. Those are my two biggest personality traits aside from loving animated TV shows. So I would love to have this channel be a fun, creative food and craft loving place where we can have fun here, and I can also be helpful because I love being helpful and I love to teach. So there's not a specific subscriber number I have, but I will have to say I would love to add more onto this channel. Would you recommend getting into crafts for stress relieving purposes? Yes and no. Yes, if you want it as a hobby, but if you want it as a business, I would say that's not going to relieve your stress at all, because there's obviously the typical business things that come along with owning a business, running a business, and building a business that are going to cause stress. And then there are going to be times where people expect a lot of you, or they think that you can do everything and you can't. How would you describe your crafting journey? Chaotic. Absolutely chaotic. Not in a bad way though. I have so many ideas all day, every day. I have notebooks all over the place. I have notebooks, I have sticky notes, I have notes on my phone of ideas that I will completely get at random. But yeah, it's chaotic. It's always chaotic. It always has been chaotic. It probably always will be chaotic. I love the constant flow of ideas and the fact that I'm never bored, but it's chaotic. What do you enjoy about crafting and candle making? The fact that I can take something that looks like nothing and turn it into something completely different. And the fact that I get to see progress in my hands. What is the cheapest way to get into crafting and candle making? So with crafting, depending on what you pick, it is fairly easy to get into. You're not going to have to make that much of an investment. If you want to do something super simple, going to Dollar Tree, going to a craft store with a coupon, spending anywhere from $20 to $50 will work perfectly fine. With candle making, I do not recommend going on Amazon or going to craft stores to get started. Results can and will vary. Some things are going to be decent, some are going to be absolutely terrible. To get the best results possible, go to a reputable candle supplier. If the reputable candle supplier has an Amazon, like an Amazon storefront, absolutely order from them. But make sure that if you are going to order from an Amazon storefront that claims to be a reputable candle supplier, you email that candle supplier first. Ask them, hey, do you have an Amazon storefront? If you do, can you please send me a link? Because there are some sellers that masquerade as reputable candle suppliers, and they absolutely are not that supplier. And to save money when you are buying your candle making supplies, try your best to order from a supplier that is as close to you as possible so the shipping cost is low, or find one local that you don't have to ship from. You can just go drive and go pick it up. Initially, I spent about $300 to learn candle making, which was getting my wax and other basic items to begin with. I think the way that I did it without a candle making kit to learn was the best thing for me because I learned so much so fast. And I would also heavily recommend for any craft, candle making and Cricut more so than anything. And I would also throw things like Glowforge and Silhouette in there too. Research like your life depends on it. Research everything. Any question you have that pops up into your head, research it. You can hop on Google, you can hop on YouTube, and if that confuses you even more, join a Facebook group and ask in a Facebook group. What do you wish you knew before you got started crafting and candle making? That it was absolutely going to take over my entire life. Crafting is pretty much all I think about aside from food. I never thought that I would have an entire craft room, and I also never thought that I would have a craft YouTube channel or be starting and working on building a craft business. I also wish that someone had told me in the beginning that it is okay if you don't do something right on the first shot. What are your favorite supplies and why? Paint is my number one because paint is the easiest way to change something. My second one is wax because you can turn it into so many different things. And I'd have to say my third supply, silicone. I know that one sounds weird, but you can take anything almost and make it into a silicone mold. What is your cheapest and most expensive craft? My cheapest craft is a tie between painting and shower steamers. And as far as my most expensive craft, candle and wax melt making and multimedia art. Where does your inspiration come from on the daily? A lot of it comes from music. The rest of it comes from social media, TV, and movies. What made you decide to turn your crafts into a business? I was 11 months away from graduating college and I was panicking because I had no job lined up, and it did not hit me until about 2 or 3 months later. Hey, your crafting and creativity and the fact that you love photography and you love doing different things every day and making content and editing and things like that, that could actually be a business and that could be your life and you can do that every day. And when I finally figured that out, I was like, yeah, we're gonna do this for real. What made you decide to start YouTube? I have wanted to have a YouTube channel since I was 10, and I started thinking about it more seriously when I was about 20 or 21, and I just could not find any topic that I was like, I can make 1,000 videos on this. There was nothing I could think of where I could have continuing content or content that I could produce right this second, because I had ideas of sharing my visual impairment, and I was like, well, those things are not going to last long. I had ideas of travel. Well, traveling is expensive, so I chose my crafting and teaching people crafting because I found out that I have a love for teaching, and obviously I love crafts, so mash the two together, and here we are. What has been your biggest hurdle as a crafter / creative? Having so many ideas and trying to execute them all, because I have tons and tons and tons of ideas and I want to put them all out, and I want to add other things to the YouTube channel. But with adding other things to the YouTube channel, I fear so much that I will lose people from doing that, because as I said before, I do want to add in food reviews and making recipes and doing other DIYs and maybe a couple of other things, but having those ideas and not being able to execute every single one. Do you try to match your fragrances to the wax melts that you make? Yes and no. There are some that I do try to match, like donuts, cookies, cake, but there are other things like macaroni and cheese that I do not want that to smell like macaroni and cheese. So things like that, no, I don't want them to match, nor do I try. And lastly, what is your favorite container and wax melt wax? So my favorite container wax is Soy 444 by Golden Brands, and my favorite wax melt wax is actually a 50-50 blend of the Golden Brands 444 and the IGI 4625, which is a food grade paraffin. So those are all of the questions that I have from you guys today. I hope that you learned something about me and about new crafts and other things. And if you did, go ahead and drop a like. And if you'd like to stick around for the future of this channel, go ahead and subscribe.